mice and stuff are all leaving. Because I do know how to look for rodents and, you know, the deer tracks. I think most everybody can find deer track, rabbit droppings, pheasant droppings. And they're all over the area up there in the front. The deer lay right down, beds are right within the circle. So obviously, I don't buy the argument that this is affecting the animals. Unless the deer.
Now, any animals, or are you just saying about the ground-based animals, because it obviously affects the flying animals, correct?
Yeah, but after you guys brought up earthworms, that was present, you can
We
see.
didn't bring that up.
That came up right here in this building.
Right, I know, but we didn't bring it up as our committee.
but-
I did hear that quote there at the
Okay.
meeting, yeah, but
So
we didn't
I-
bring it, you're saying we brought it up, so we
Okay,
didn't.
I'm sorry, it was brought up in this building. I contacted my contact people, and that was right when spring rains, and they said it's just like straw in the driveway right now. Because of the spring rain, you know how it is around here on the highway?
Right, yeah.
Don't tell me you don't know what I call straw.
No, we know it,
Where,
right
you
now.
know, big earthworms come out.
Right, yeah, that was somebody from the audience, I don't think it was anybody from any board member or anything like that. It
Well,
was just a regular person. Thank you for the
I
information.
have to give my reports.
Yep,
And when I did, I got a response back saying, you know, this is like straw right now in the driveway, so apparently there is earthworms in the vicinity of the turbines.
I just had a couple quick comments. No more questions, just a couple quick comments. Just a reminder for the board and any of the interested members of the public that the IICC is going to be showing the Lower Israel documentary Windfall on Saturday, June 11th. The doors open at 6:30. It's a 7 o'clock start at the Christian Family Center, which is up on the west side of Adrian, just down from like the Gleaner Life Insurance building and like where Masco used to be. I encourage you all to come out and attend that. Another event that I want to bring to the committee's attention and again to the general public, on June 14th at the Palmyra Planning Commission, the IICC is sponsoring Jerry Punch, the chairman of the Speech and Audiology Department at Michigan State University, to come down and talk about wind turbine impacts. Mr. Punch co-authored an article in Audiology Today, a magazine for audiology professionals that kind of address some of the issues related to wind turbine noise. Mr. Punch also is the chairman of the Michigan Public Service Commission's Wind Health Impacts Group. It's a subcommittee of the Wind Working Group, which is currently in the process of revising the state's wind guidelines. As you know, there were guidelines that were issued 3 or 4 years ago by the state. They were basically written by John Sarver, who is now the Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association, their head lobbyist. So he left government, and he's still on the panel, and he's still fighting strongly for the wind industry. But that panel there had discussed the issue, and Mr. Punch, as well as another physician on the board, had expressed the opinion that anything more than 40 decibels at night in particular would be kicking the can down the road, and we're inviting more problems. So I think he'll bring a good impartial. I don't think he has any interest in the turbines other than as a scientist, and come down and talk to that. I was going to ask here tonight, Richard, I don't know if there's any interest, if the Ogden Township Board would be interested in entertaining Mr. Punch. We're already sustaining a certain amount of expense to bring him down here. I might be able to make arrangements to have him present to this board as well for 15 or 20 minutes if you guys wanted to entertain him. I don't even know if that's a possibility, but I wanted to at least broach that possibility.
I don't know, we'd have to bring that to the board, and, I mean, I can't speak for the board.
Okay, and I didn't know how that worked as far as if you were able to get items on the agenda. I can make a couple more calls to see then if that's a possibility, but in terms of scheduling, we might be able to have him come here first and go
But
to
if
Palmyra.
If he's there on the 14th, well, it's the same night as ours.
It's the same night, so I thought we might be able to kind of coordinate.
Yeah, I don't know, Josh, I can't speak for the board.
Okay.
That'll be a board action.
Yeah.
Okay. And if not, that will be a we'll tape the event and we'll make that available to the public and to the board. There's ways that you can go out and view that on YouTube, but I wanted to at least let you guys know about that. Couple other things, just real quick. You talked about shadow flicker and the idea of monitoring it with the use of sensors and some different technology to kind of help remove that basically as an impact from residents. I want to point out, it's been pointed out before, I'm about to point it out again, but that actually gives the developers greater flexibility in turbine siting, and that sites that previously may have had trouble with shadow flicker without the use of some sort of control software might then become viable sites if the turbines are just shut off in the event that the flickering event was occurring. So that may actually give them additional flexibility. Let's see. Another thing I think that might be worth discussing and possibly asking the board about, just to see what their opinion is. But you talked about some of the other jurisdictions, whether it be Riga, Fairfield Township, or in Metamora, to see if there's some way that if the board would be interested in pursuing with each one of these jurisdictions some kind of reciprocity in the sense that if they import a certain standard, whether it be on the wind turbines, or maybe it could be something for something outside of turbines even, but basically to respect their ordinance just as we would ask that they would respect ours, and not use, if whatever number provides more protection for the residents, that they would maybe use that number. And I would envision that would probably be something that they would have to have an agreement with each of the townships that, you respect us, we'll respect yours.
Not use anything less than that.
Not use anything.
Well, that's what I was saying, if the township next door, say Riga has sets at a half mile.
Well, they may want to go more. I'm just saying, just clarifying that.
Like
See what I'm
Metamora
saying?
saying 2 miles.
Well, no, I'm saying, but if Riga has a wind ordinance, that you go with their wind ordinance saying, we'll keep them a half mile away because that's what you do. But if Amboy Township wants 2 miles, you have to look into whether or not 2 miles is feasible, or whether that's,
Because that would only apply to, like, for example, if the setback was a half a mile, if the property in question was 400 yards across the state line, I'm kind of thinking in terms of the people in Sylvania. It was, I think, kind of a travesty what we seen the other night in the Lenawee County Planning Commission, how the people from Sylvania, their concerns were basically just disregarded because of the fact that they don't live in the jurisdiction. They're not going to derive any of the tax benefits or anything else. And, I don't...
Amboy Township's the same way down here in Metamora, and that's what I said. That's why they're probably requesting a 2 mile setback, and they're probably looking at that because they've seen reports that show within 2 miles that there is property value loss, and they're not going to gain anything. I mean, that's what I said, and it's up to the developers. Are they going to offer them money because they're not going to get any tax, and are they willing to offer them more
Sure.
money to have them within the 2 miles? I mean, that's all stuff that has to be looked at in the ordinance, more research done, because, like I said, if a jurisdiction doesn't have a wind ordinance, why do we subject them to our ordinance and just say, well, to heck with you guys, we're going to put them where we want in our township? I mean, I don't think that's fair and being neighborly to
Sure.
go and say that, and that's why if they have an ordinance, is what I suggested, is that you go and do that. But if they want 2 miles, you have to go and look into whether or not, say Fairfield, who does have a chance to have turbines, and they say they don't want them, or, and they set their ordinance, and it's a half mile, but then they request 2 miles, is that fair? They have to set an ordinance, but down in Ohio, because they don't stand to have any monetary gain, I can see why they want to keep it farther back to minimize their property value losses, which I think makes sense.
Sure, and I think there's varying degrees that the boards could then pursue. It could be a hard agreement saying we will observe it. It could be an agreement saying that as much as possible we will try to observe it. Basically, an acknowledgement saying that within reason we're going to try to work to try to protect the residents that live on the peripheral edges of each of these
And that's the
townships.
possibility of them having a pilot program for those people within the 2 miles down in Amboy that the developers could go and offer them lump sum cash or whatever to those people. You don't know, whether or not a property value guarantee or whatever. I mean, just because it's our jurisdiction, I don't think it's fair for somebody that lives only 100 feet across, like I said, just across from Thompson Highway. Your land's, your house is 100 feet off the center of Thompson Highway, and guess what? you gotta live within 1,320 feet, but if they have a half-mile setback or 4 times or 5 times the height of the turbine, why do they have to go and be subjected to our minimalist if it was accepted here setbacks? And then I don't think that's fair.
Just trying to be good neighbors for people.
Exactly. Well, same thing with Blissfield, 1,320 feet, and Blissfield has no stake in this other than getting a little school money. And, you know, and to have that to where the map that Larry gave us in their print shows it going right along by the school where they have potential turbines. Now, they're suggesting a half-mile setback, well, with a half-mile setback, but if there's property values up to 2 to 3 mile losses, those people within the half-mile setback may lose property value, and there's a lot of houses in there, and how is that fair to them to lose that property value and not get any monetary gain out of it at all? And I understand that.
Have you checked Fayette, Ohio? When you went to Payne, you should have went through Fayette, Ohio, or close to it.
And I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, Fayette School has a turbine down there.
Is it 500 feet tall?
No, it's not 500.
Okay, well, and I saw, the ones I saw were the ones that Brian Dickens put in up at Pigeon, and there are 2 of them are defunct right now, so, and they have them there, and I tell you one thing, I'd be pretty upset if I had those sitting next to my school children, my child in school, to have those that close to the schools with those size turbines, especially one that's missing a blade.
Well, those are antique,
Well, then why did they put them in?
because the federal government gave them the money to put them in. That's what Brian
So
don't,
instead of the safety, let's go with what the federal government
Brian
gave us.
don't sell those.
But he's the one that goes and touts them in his paperwork that's saying, I was developed the wind turbine stuff, and he's a member of your board. And if he's willing to say, the federal government gave me money to put these in, then what's the difference of him being a member of a co-owner of your company, saying that, well, we're gonna put these 500 footers in because the government's